Hi, good morning. I guess the disadvantage of going later on is that a lot of the topics have already been introduced, but we'll see if we can expand on it. DOT is relatively new to this whole Gov 2.0 initiative. The Secretary does have a blog out there, but let me tell you, it's been quite a battle with the General Counsel's office to keep it alive. It's one of those cases where it doesn't matter what the policies say, if the Secretary wants something, he gets it. But the whole context in which we're approaching it is essentially that innovation is going to be driven through collaboration. You heard this quite commonly as a thread. The issue is that we don't want to have people just proliferate these government 2.0 type of initiatives going out, opening Twitter accounts, Facebook accounts, et cetera, without a framework in which there's going to be some discipline. Anarchy is not the answer. All right, next slide, please. Okay, I'm here with my able colleague, Jen Gastetic, who's going to talk to you about some of the details, but I just wanted to introduce the framework that we're trying to put in place: policy, culture, and technology. We have our own triangle, but it's a common triangle, and nothing should be very surprisingly. The whole idea of openness in government is new. It's a paradigm shift. Typically, government is not being very open, and we're learning what that openness really means, where are the needs, who we're trying to serve, who's our customer. And with all those challenges in place, we want to make sure that, once again, just not opening Twitter accounts and Facebook accounts, but have a strategic vision and seeing if those tools are indeed what we need to move forward. It may be that, in fact, there is no need for a Facebook account in certain government agencies. So it's new, it's cool, but is there a strategic need that we need to address in order for, before proceeding? It's not only about tools. There's a policy. It will need a cultural shift because we have policies in place that forbid pretty much most of the openness in the Web 2.0. Our legal department is having a heart attack every time we're trying to do something that's open. So I am responsible, among other things, about policy, architecture, capital planning, also cybersecurity, privacy. Openness is all great until you start running into issues like cybersecurity and privacy. So the framework that we're proposing, and you're going to hear in the next few slides, is basically trying to mitigate all these risks, address our strategic needs, and ultimately improve performance and serve the public. This is what we're trying to do. We want to make sure that we do it in a coherent way that it will deliver the results we're looking for. So having said that, we're hoping that anything that comes out of here is going to be transferable to your agency. They're going to be able to use it. I'll be available for questions, answer, and openly able to discuss it in the future. So we'll share. Jen?
All right, so I'm going to run through a few key questions, if we can go to the next slide, that we had starting out. DOT was a relatively new, very new organization to open government, so we had two primary questions that we were asking. How should we approach open government, and who should be involved? Fundamentally, right at the beginning. Those are two questions one needs to ask. We tried to figure out if there was a way to kind of put an anchor in the ground that could keep us focused on the types of things that we needed to make sure that we were keyed into throughout the life cycle of open government. Open government is a fundamental shift in how the government does business if it takes off and if it does what it's supposed to do. It's change management on steroids. So essentially, this is nothing revolutionary to people: assessing, planning, implementing, measuring, and improving. But why can't we apply that to open government? We should be able to apply that to open government because this is fundamental change management. I think this is a perfect segue from Maxine's presentation and talking about technology, policy, and culture, because we've tried to really put and identify some key areas within each of those, walking around the cycle to help folks really understand the full scope of what they're looking at when they go into open government, and to try to keep them focused. So if we walk around the circle and you start with technology, you'll see security, infrastructure, tools, and OpenGov programs. OpenGov programs are essentially pilots or things that are already going on at your organization that have been tested that you can use as examples and test beds. Culture, which are your participatory activities. That's essentially your low-hanging fruit. Where do you have to participate with the public, or where are you already participating with the public, so you can possibly inject Gov 2.0 mechanisms into that way of relating. Agency stakeholders, that's both understanding your audience as well as understanding their accessibility. If the majority of your audience is in Appalachia, then you might not want to be putting all of your collaboration mechanisms online, because the majority of them don't have access because they don't have broadband access. Communication channels, this is fundamentally shifting into new media, so we really need to understand kind of the shift in how we generally communicate with the public, what open government is doing there. And employee readiness, what's our internal culture? Are we ready to do this? And then policy, you've got performance and strategic planning that really link you into the key components of why you're doing this in the first place at your organization. Legal and internal directives. If we want to move to the next slide quickly. This tries to give you a little bit of a picture of who we've engaged at DOT from the beginning in our planning effort. You'll notice the gray bar walking around the circle. It identifies who the typical subject matter experts in each of these areas are at an organization. So if you look at the technology area, surprise, surprise, mostly CIO shop is in there. But you'll also notice that the only organization that really shows up in all three areas is the CIO. CIO usually has some sort of influence over IT policy in an organization, as well as understanding how ready employees are and technologically mature employees are at their organization, internally at least. You'll notice OPD, which is our acronym for Office of Policy Development, also the legal folks, CFO. It's pretty non-traditional to have the CFO at the shop, but they're talking a lot about performance at your organization, so they should probably be there. HR, your Office of Public Affairs, and then those project managers that really understand the stakeholders and programs that have worked. And if we go to the final slide, this kind of just shows you that these are almost like cake slices. So you can go through each of the layers of the cake and really kind of understand the role that each of those folks need to play in each part of the process. So for example, if we look at assess for legal, they're understanding the statutory environment that they exist in within that department, and also the current policies that they're constrained by, and also enable them. In the planning phase, they're trying to figure out what types of policies might need to change at their organization or what types of policies might need to be developed, working with the policy development shop. And implement, they're writing policies or helping to write policies, those folks that need to do it. And in measure and control, they're really trying to figure out how they can measure their performance and then how they change what they've already done to make sure that the environment truly is becoming more open at their department. So this is just one example of a cake slice, but you can do this for each of them. So we've actually already on the Phase 1 blog, if you go to our website, www.phase1cg.com, go to our blog, we've already run through a blog series that points out in each of these offices why they should be at the table and kind of the talking points to get those folks at the table. And then also coming soon, we'll be running through each of these pie pieces as well. So our contact information is on the last slide. Giovanni's contact information and mine. We really hope that we've communicated to you that you can manage risks through doing this through a focused framework methodology as opposed to going on one path and continuing on that path and not necessarily seeing the scope of possibilities for open government at your organization. So now we're open to questions. Thank you.